time to play the game. Time to play the game. It's all about the game and how you play it. All about control. And if you can take it, all about your debt. And if you can play it, it's all about pain. And who's gonna make it? I am the game. You don't wanna play me. I am control. No way you can shake me.
Hi, this is James, and this is Games According to James, Episode 1, This Is Me. This episode, we're just going to discuss my background in gaming of various types, but I'll start off with a little bit of my own background. I'm a middle-aged truck driver, married, 3 kids. Most of them, or 2 of them are adults, one's almost an adult. And my political leanings are left of center, just so we know where I stand going forward when I decide to discuss things like social issues in gaming, which I will be doing. That said, we'll get into my gaming background. Basically, I've been gaming since I was born. We all have. If you don't think about it, but we have. Our first real gaming experiences would probably be similar to LARPing, live action role play. Because when we were kids, I'm sure most of us played some variation of cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians, as the case may be with some, or commandos and terrorists, who knows. But the fact is, we played a role, and we came up with our own ways of settling disputes or resolving conflicts, be that finger guns, toy guns, sticks as swords, whatever it happened to be. So doing that even as little kids, that's kind of instinctual live action role play, really, and it serves well if you keep at it as you get older. But remember as well, most of us would have played with our dolls, action figures, Hot Wheels, what have you, Lego men or Lego people. And we would have given them voices, and we would have sent them on adventures and or missions or whatever you want to call it. So really, we all start as a type of gamer, namely a role player, because we want to play roles of people other than ourselves. That's a given. Now, that said, most people grow out of it. People like us, anybody listening to this, or myself for that matter, we don't grow out of it. We take it to heart. We start playing codified games, role-playing games, video games, what have you. And it's just something we enjoy, so we keep doing it. Only we now find a set of rules to play by, making it easier to do so. Now, I play a variety of games. And I don't mean a varieties of one type of game. I mean a variety of games. I play role-playing games, or at least used to. I really don't have time these days for role-playing and doing campaigns. But I play role-playing games. I know role-playing games. I read role-playing games. But largely I play miniatures now, wargaming, if you will. But I've dabbled in CCGs in the past. And in video games, I used to play a lot of video games when I was younger. Not so much now. But something I just fell out of. Cost started becoming prohibitive, etc. But to start with role-playing games, I started my first role-playing game. I was probably the top secret SI box set from probably when about 87, 88. My first year of high school, I think. And I was reading that system recently, and that system still holds up pretty well, actually. It's a James Bond game, effectively. And it was fun, and I never really played any campaigns, but I dabbled with it with a couple of friends, and it was fun. And then I came across Ninjas and Super Spies from Palladium, as well as Shadowrun from FASA. Shadowrun intrigued me because of the whole aspects of magic and technology, but I was kind of, to me, the setting was a bit lacking in as much as I liked Blade Runner and cyberpunk stuff. It's just kind of, it originally to me fell a bit flat. And in the early 90s, bam, I found Rifts. Now, before I get into that, I also had the Star Wars role-playing game, but I had nobody to play that with because nobody else was really a Star Wars fan. And when I was in high school, I had one or two maybe. But I'm a big Star Wars fan. Just looking around my apartment will show that, between all the knickknacks and toys and action figures and art on the walls and the tattoos I have, etc. But role-playing wise, it was a small aspect of it, even though I bought a lot of the material, but it was more for me to read. I didn't really jump into role-playing until I got into Rifts. And to me, Rifts is one of those settings that not only is the kitchen sink in there, the entire kitchen is in there, along with the bathroom, the living room, the neighbor's house. It's all in there. And I love the setting. It's not Star Wars, but for me, it's a very close second, just because I like the grandiose and over-the-top environment the game has. And that really is what got me into role-playing, was playing that. Now, I ended up exposed to other games, like Feng Shui. Feng Shui was a lot of fun. You just describe what you want, you get bonuses, and they have what they called a mook rule. Unless it was some kind of named character, one hit would take the guy down. And it was a fast, really fun game. But through the 90s, I really stuck with the Palladium stuff because the people I knew who gamed, they played the Palladium stuff. So it was Rifts, Heroes Unlimited, Robotech, and so on and so forth. Now, I did play other games. Mechton was another game I played, which, again, was a lot of fun. It was simple. Had a miniature tactical aspect to it, so you had a better visual representation of combat. And then there was Heavy Gear and Jovian Chronicles. And then D20 took up Star Wars, so I bought more of that material. Again, more because Star Wars, not because I was planning to play it. And then there was the D20 craze. And then role-playing wise, I kept following Palladium more because I liked the setting, but I really didn't follow up on much else. So from a role-playing aspect, I'm kind of limited into what systems I know. But I'll gladly talk systems that I do know. So that's where my role-playing experiences kind of fall. Now, the next thing I also play is miniatures, or war games. I played Battletech for almost 30 years now. The rules have changed very little, but it's still a fun game. There's something about 40-foot tall robots stomping around, firing particle beams, punching each other in the face in battlefields of various types that, I don't know, I like. What can I say? And it really wasn't until, we'll say 4 years ago, give or take, where I started to really look at other miniature games. For quite a while, having a family, I really didn't have time to play much of anything, let alone miniature games or role-playing games. So about 4 years ago is when I started delving into other miniature games. Now, it started with Star Wars X-Wing, shock of shocks, I know, Star Wars, which is a fast game. It's a fun game. You really get the feel of dogfighting with your opponent when you have 2 or 3 starfighters on the table and you're jockeying for position, trying to get that shot. And it was really a lot of fun, and that was kind of the start of a snowball effect. Getting into X-Wing, then eventually I got into Star Wars Armada. Yes, I know, again, Star Wars. Which was kind of a fleet skirmish game, we'll call it, because usually I had 2 or 3 ships on the table along with their representative squadrons. Very different than X-Wing, but I don't know about anybody else. Pushing a Star Destroyer across the table at your opponent who's got a couple of Corvettes, that's my thing. I'm really okay with that. And then I got in a little bit into Imperial Assault, which was almost like role-playing based board game in a way. And recently Star Wars Legion came out, which was a more traditional war game like Warhammer 40K, which I also got into. I play Tau, by the way. I don't care about the rest of you. For the greater good. But I thank Greg Saul for that. He got me into X-Wing and Armada, and I also blame him for that. But my friend Jacob as well, he got me playing things like Team Yankee and Flames of War. Traditional equipment, tanks, infantry, APCs. In regards to Team Yankee, it's really nice to see a pair of A-10s going across the table, making a strafing run, or firing on Maverick missiles at tanks and such. It's just a lot of fun. And Jacob also got me into Star Trek Attack Wing, which is similar to X-Wing, only it's Star Trek ships, so same idea. And all of those games, I enjoy them all. I try to play them all when I can, and when I do, it's a lot of fun. I'd say 20 years ago, I wouldn't have as much fun, because 20 years ago, I would have been playing to win all the time rather than just wanting to have fun. These days, I play to have fun. Winning is not tantamount. Winning is fun, but it's not primary. Winning is a happy side effect or happy accident when it happens. Playing the game with people I like, people I know, people I get along with, that's the main thing for me. And that goes for role-playing games too. I've been invited to join various games, and it's like, no, because I know who's involved, and you know what? I'm not interested. I'm happy to chat with them, but I'm not interested in playing games with them. Now, there are other miniature-based games I've played, like Heavy Gear and Jovian Chronicles, which not really miniature-based, but effectively they're essentially the same kind of game, except they had cardboard pieces instead of metal miniatures. And I think that pretty much covers everything for that. There was the Robotech fiasco in the past 5 years, but I'm not going to delve into that because it's annoying. But another game which I actually play with my son, HeroClix. Fun game. It's superheroes from Marvel, DC. I think they've done Image characters as well. It's simple, but again, there's synergies involved between characters that you can build, and it's collectible, similar to CCG, so you're not guaranteed to know what you're going to get when you buy a booster. But I got into it, and it is actually a lot of fun. It's just another game I don't have enough time to play, unfortunately. But you get some really nice looking sculpts and whatnot of the different miniatures that it's something to see. You have Batman and Superman fighting Captain America and Thor, or hell, you have Spider-Man fighting Spider-Man, or you have 5 Spider-Mans on your team versus 5 Green Arrows or 5 Batmans or what have you. But it's just, it's fun. And again, it's like the other games. I play for fun, so it doesn't really matter too much there. Now, I'll delve into video games. I cut my teeth playing video games on a Pong system back in the late 70s, early 80s. It was a deluxe Pong system. It actually had a light gun and multiple options for playing Pong. So it wasn't just back and forth across the screen. You could set it up to be similar to racquetball or squash, where your two bars are on one side and you're bouncing it off the other end of the screen. And I think there was one that set up a couple of barriers too, so you had to be careful and try to bounce it through the barriers. But after that was Atari. You can't get simpler than a stick and a button. It's either shoot or jump. And I kind of miss those days of simplicity when it comes to video games. But I got an Atari system. I had all kinds of games for it. They maxed out what they could do with that system with some of the stuff they came out with towards the end, including other peripherals that you could plug in so that you could have a keypad that did different stuff, using other switches on the actual console for their F-14 Tomcat simulator, which, despite the graphics, was a fun game to play. And it just, once Nintendo came out, it got buried. And I did get a Nintendo. I think it was my senior year of high school. I finally got a Nintendo, and I enjoyed the games on there too. It's just it wasn't the same. I don't know if it's the I don't know if it's the I'm not sure what word to use, but the games were fun. I had a blast playing a lot of them, especially Castlevania 2 and things like Track and Field 2 or Blades of Steel, the baseball games. It was fun, and that was the main thing. Again, you get together with friends and just play a bunch of games and have a blast. It's just the way it is. And then moved on to Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, actually, at one point. I think we had both. That's about where my real video gaming experience will end, because after that, I just never got into it. I never got into the PlayStation Xbox wars. Now, I've played games since then, but it's just, usually it's one of the EA NHL games, or it's something like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, but that's about it. I never got into Halo or SOCOM or Call of Duty, or I didn't have the time to invest. I had a wife and 3 kids, and 3 young kids, so I just missed entirely on that whole thing. Excuse me. But one of the things that I guess I never really got into either, especially when I think it was about the time PlayStation 2 came out, maybe PlayStation 3, but I think it was the 2, was the video games were looking more and more realistic. And a friend of mine invited me over, and I'm not going to say his name because it doesn't matter, but he was showing me, I think it was SOCOM or something like that, the first time SOCOM came out, and it had online play. And he's showing it to me, and I'm like, I was just not impressed. Yes, graphically it looked beautiful. It for that purpose, it looked great. But he's like, oh, you can do this and you can do that. And I was just like, dude, if I want to watch this right now, I'll just turn on CNN, because this was about the same time. CNN was 24/7 Afghan invasion post 9/11, right? So I was like, no, I'm just not interested. I'll go back to playing my Sega and Sonic and Mario and stuff. I'm good with that. And I enjoy those kind of games more anyway, especially like arcade days, playing early on Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, and then into probably my favorite arcade game of all time, Karate Master, where you had the 2 joysticks and you had to go do up and down on each to do certain things, or back, both in or both out, or one left, one right, one left, one up, whatever it was you wanted to do. And you had to do them at the same time, because then you could do a jumping kick or a reverse roundhouse kick, or whatever it happened to be. And then there's things like RoboCop and Altered Beast. And then, yeah, Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat came out in the arcades. I countless hours wasted and quarters spent playing those games. And they were all fun. It's just, eventually, video gaming, just the direction it took and everything else, I really don't even PC game. The closest thing I came to PC gaming was I played X-Wing, TIE Fighter, X-Wing Alliance, and I never did any of the online aspects. Unreal Tournament, I have it, I played it, or had it and I played it, but I never went online to any of the hosted areas. I just played in practice mode, increased difficulty in the bots, said throw them at me until I die and we're good to go. But that's just me. Like, I know there's people who live and die and swear by playing WoW or previously City of Heroes and games along those lines. But it's just not me. So video games, if I'm talking about them, it's probably going to be classic games or old school games. Like, I loved playing. I'm trying to think now. I used to love playing Decathlon on the Atari. You were basically exhausted by the end of it, but it was a blast to play. Or a Castlevania 2 on the Nintendo Entertainment System, the original NES, or even Mario. Every so often you throw it in, and it was just mindless fun. You didn't have to sit there and, oh, I have to figure out this puzzle, or, oh, we got to go check over here and do all this other stuff, or you didn't have to meet with 5 other people to run an instant or a quest to find new armor because you wanted to level up. It was all self-contained. You didn't have to worry about being able to coordinate with other people or find other people online to play. And then once all of that started to change, it's really about the time I said, nope, this isn't for me, and I'm really not interested. And I just kept playing the Sega and the Nintendo and the Atari and right through the 90s. And I was happy with it. And so that's where my video gaming experience is. Sadly, I can't talk to new games really at all. I like the environments. I like the graphics. I'll download pictures of stuff, and I'll even research how to write up stats for things in role-playing games. But playing the games themselves, I still really have no interest. It's just that's unfortunately one aspect of my gaming that has fallen off over the last 20 years. Which that brings us to CCGs, or collectible card games. Yes, I did play Magic the Gathering briefly. I had a deck that I never purchased the cards for. A friend of mine made it for me so that I could play with him and 2 other guys we knew. It was an interesting little black Thrall deck with a couple of extra little surprises thrown in. And it was worth a few dollars back then, so he made me the deck. He said, here, you play this, and that way if we're doing if we want to play Magic one night, you can take part, which is great. I traded him a book I didn't want, so we were both happy. A couple of years ago, I got rid of what Magic cards I had. I bought a ship for X-Wing with the money I got. CCGs were never something I had a ton of interest in. I liked the concept, but it wasn't my thing, similar to modern video games. But I did play Spellbind. I think it was Spellbinder. I still have the cards for that somewhere. I also played the BattleTech CCG. Both of them, I actually enjoyed them more than Magic the Gathering. I don't know if it's because of the mechanics, or I knew BattleTech, so yeah, okay, I'd probably gravitate to BattleTech more. But Spellbinder, I actually liked the mechanics. I couldn't tell you what they are today, but I just remember at the time I had more fun playing Spellbinder just because of the mechanics involved and the various things you could do versus Magic, which was, okay, get lands, do this, tap, attack, etc. I also have a crap ton of Rifts CCG cards. I've yet to play a game, and I need to get around to playing it. The art is actually pretty good on the vast majority of the cards. I have a crap ton of them. I could probably supply 10 people with decks and have a mini tournament if I really wanted to. But I'd like to play it because by all accounts, when the game came out, it was actually a very fun game to play. It worked really well. It's just, as usual, the parent company and the company that licensed it to make the game both dropped the ball, which is nothing new for the parent company involved. They drop the ball. If they don't drop the ball like once a week, it's surprising with them. But that I don't have a lot of CCG stuff to talk about because I never played Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon. I never really did play Magic that much, or any of the other games that came out. It's just it was something that didn't appeal to me. I'm more of the role-playing games and miniature games guy, and the settings they're in. And well, of course, we've got board games as well. I'm a traditional board game guy: checkers, chess, Stratego, Monopoly, Game of Life, Risk, which I haven't played in years and years and years. Even little games like Trouble or Sorry. Just I look to play for fun. I'm not looking at wanting to play, say, Ghostbusters, the board game, or Alien versus Predator, the board game, or any number of board games that have come out in recent years that are like $120, $130. Like, if I want a board game, if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I ain't spending it on a board game. I'm going to spend it on miniatures for the games I already play. But I can see how they'd be a lot of fun. They're just not for me. So while some of my gaming experience and background may be limited, again, video games post 1994, we'll say. Board games where I'm more of a traditional board game guy, and CCGs where I don't really play them. And even my role-playing aspect. Like, I play enough mini games, that a variety of them, that I can talk about a lot of them and aspects of that gaming world, be it terrain and whatnot. Role-playing games, mostly Palladium, but I do know a couple others, 2 or 3 other systems. They're older systems that aren't kicking around anymore, but by and large, role-playing is role-playing. It's the only thing that changes is the rules, but the basic elements of playing are the same. You play your role, you use your brain, you do what needs to be done to defeat the wizard, or defeat the dragon, or defeat the town bully, whatever you want to call it. And it never hurts to have a drink every so often with your friends, and talk over aspects of gaming and whatnot. And that's what I'm looking to do with this podcast. It's not a high production value thing by any stretch, as I'm sure you can tell. But I want this to come across as conversational as best I can. I want to talk about aspects. I don't want to I'm not big on interviewing people or trying to get insider info, or doing podcasts where you're like, oh, I want to get more listeners. If nobody listens to it, if nothing else, I've gotten it out of my system. And that's the key. I'm doing this for fun. I'm doing this because I think I have something to share. I want to be talking to you, not at you. And most podcasts, to me, even when they're interviewing people, almost feel like they're talking at you or over you. I want to be talking to you. I want you to be able to sit down with a drink and listen like I'm talking to you, that the conversation is with you. Now, whether I'm successful at that, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, I want to share my experiences or my opinions, and then you guys can discuss them. You can email me. You can message me. You can talk to me or we can discuss it on the Facebook group. And, that's the whole thing. It's like to get you talking about gaming, and not just doing the game, but talking about the background aspects and everything else. But hopefully people listen. If they don't, again, it's there. I get it out of my system. Anybody wants to know my opinion on something, I say, well, if you just go listen to this. But like I said, it's more, I want to talk to you about it. Be it my favorite games, or a specific game setting, or what do I do for terrain, or social aspects. And it's just one of those things where I want to share and get feedback, because the more we talk, the more we discuss, the more we interact, the more we all grow, the more our communities grow, the more gaming grows as a whole entity in that regard. So that's my plan going forward. I'm going to have a number of subjects, like my favorite game of this, or why I don't like certain games, or I want to do an episode on having fun versus having to win. Might not be a very long episode, and episodes aren't going to be set to any length. Like this one's pushing 30 minutes now, but an episode could be 15 minutes, an episode could be an hour. It all depends on what I'm discussing. But going forward, it's going to be, role-playing games versus board games versus miniature games versus CCG versus video games, the pros and cons of each. What do you generally look for? What do I look for when I'm looking at these games? Again, the having fun versus having to win, social aspects with interactions and courtesies and whatnot with you and other gamers. And it's just, there's so much shit in our world that nobody really thinks about, even though they deal with it on a daily basis, or, and I want to let people know, like there are people out there that think about it too. And I'm hoping that will come across in the various episodes I do. Now, how often are they going to be? Probably about once a month, give or take. but maybe faster, maybe slower. It all depends. But I'm just doing this for fun. I'm not even posting this on YouTube or any other podcast sites. I'm hosting it on my own server. It's a downloadable MP3, so you guys can do what you want with it. Share it, don't share it, trash me for it. That's all up to you guys where this goes. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll wrap up. So hopefully you're entertained by this and understand where maybe I'll be coming from in the future. And it's gaming's great. Gaming's fun. I've got a lot of friends because of gaming, and I wouldn't change that for anything. So this has been Games According to Jaymz. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next time.